What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Zabulon Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah, and we are live, y'all. Tonight, it's time for me to give y'all my first 2024 NBA mock draft. So, without further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and get straight into it. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the live stream. All right, y'all. So, the first pick, we had the Atlanta Hawks on the clock, and y'all have the Atlanta Hawks selecting Zachary Richardson, y'all. And I know for some Hawks fans, this is probably going to piss them off because I know a lot of Hawks fans that want Alex Sarr, but y'all, it has been reported that the Atlanta Hawks have been unable to bring Alex Sarr in for a workout. And so I think because of that, they're going to get turned off by Alex Sarr a little bit. And I think when you look at Zachary Richardson, y'all, he's a 6'9", 3-and-D forward that we project that he will be able to guard, 3 or 4 positions, and he can really shoot the three ball at a high level. So you're talking about at the bare minimum, right? If he never gets better, he's going to be a 3-and-D player. But I think this is a guy that has some shot creation ability in his game that if the Atlanta Hawks are able to unlock that, you're talking about a guy, y'all, that could probably be like an 18 to 21 point per game scorer while playing elite defense at 6'9". It's hard to find that kind of guy. I think Zachary Richardson makes a ton of sense, y'all, for the Atlanta Hawks. All right, y'all, at pick 2, we have the Washington Wizards on the clock, and I have them selecting Alex Sarr. Y'all, when you look at the Washington Wizards, this is a team that has some intriguing young players, right? Danny Avdija, y'all, who finally, he finally put it all together, had a really good season this past year. And they also have, Tyus Jones, but they're really lacking in their front court spot, y'all, particularly at the center spot. And when you look at Alex Sarr, to me, Alex Sarr has the potential to be the best player in this draft class because you're talking about a guy that's about 6'11", y'all, that very, very agile for his size and has the potential to be a very good three-point shooter. But he's already a really good lob threat. Has a pretty solid post-up game. He does need to get stronger, and he does need to work on his shooting mechanics a little bit. But I just think when you're a team like the Washington Wizards that is really lacking for talent, right? Again, I said they have Danny Avdija. Obviously, they have Kyle Kuzma. But y'all, neither one of those guys are really a franchise player. Alex Sarr has that ability to become a franchise player. So I just think he makes too much sense. And I really like Alex Sarr a lot. Again, if I was the Atlanta Hawks, I would take him, but I don't think they're going to take him because they haven't been able to bring him in for a workout. All right, y'all, at pick 3, we have the Houston Rockets on the clock. And y'all, this is the easy pick for me. I had them taking Reed Sheppard. Y'all, when you look at the Houston Rockets, obviously this is a team last year that went 500, right? They went 41-41, and so they are ready to make the playoffs this coming up season. And to me, y'all, Reed Sheppard would definitely help them potentially make the playoffs because I think he has an NBA ready game. You're talking about a guy that shot basically 50% from the floor, y'all, 51% from 3. Is a guy that really can move well without the basketball, and he's a solid defender. I think a lot of people just see Reed Sheppard as a three-point shooter, but y'all, he's a solid defender. And we know Ime Udoka, who's the Rockets head coach, he gets the best out of guys defensively anyways. I mean, even Jalen Green looked, decent this year on defense after his first 2 years in the league. He looked god-awful. So I think Reed Sheppard, he's already a solid defender. He could end up becoming a good defender. And also, y'all, when you look at the Houston Rockets, yes, I know they have Fred VanVleet, but Fred VanVleet might not be there next year, or we still don't know what they're gonna do with Jalen Green. So let's just say that one of Fred VanVleet or Jalen Green is not there. Well, now you still have Amen Thompson, who you drafted last year, and then you will have Reed Sheppard as your backcourt of the future. And I really love that because Amen Thompson, y'all, he's a non-shooter. But if you pair Reed Sheppard next to him, who's an elite three-point shooter, you see the balance right there. I love that fit. I would love to pair with him and Amen Thompson. So I had them taking Reed Sheppard. All right, y'all, at pick 4, we have, we have the San Antonio Spurs on the clock. Come on, Reed Sheppard, go to the Houston Rockets, please. There we go. Y'all, we have the San Antonio Spurs on the clock. And y'all, I had the San Antonio Spurs, selecting Stephon Castle. When I look at the San Antonio Spurs, this is a team that is desperately in need of a point guard. Listen, I know they have Trey Jones, y'all, and I like Trey Jones, right? He's the younger brother of Tyus Jones, but Trey Jones, he's just not athletic. He lacks the ability to really be a franchise point guard. But y'all, Stephon Castle, I think he can be a franchise point guard. You're talking about a guy that's about 6'6", y'all, that is uber athletic, really solid rebounder, is a really good driver of the basketball. And I think he's an underrated playmaker. I know you look at his numbers and he only averaged 2.9 assists per game, but y'all, a lot of it had to do with just UConn's system. As y'all know, UConn, they play a very unselfish brand of basketball. And, you know, a lot of players the ball. Stephon Castle went to any other university, he probably would have averaged about 5 or 6 assists per game. But he can read the floor very well. Again, he's a tall point guard, has length. The only knock on him is his shooting, right? He only shot about 27% from three, but he did shoot 75% from the free throw line. So that's not bad, right? That's not great. But the fact that he shot 75% from the free throw line, y'all, leads me to believe that he could eventually become like a 34 or 35% three-point shooter. But I think for the San Antonio Spurs, man, this will be a home run pick. Y'all, Stephon Castle might be my favorite player in this draft class. I love Alex Sarr, but, man, I really love Stephon Castle. And I would love if the San Antonio Spurs took him. You could pair him with Wemby and give Wemby like a true point guard, y'all. Because we all this past year, the San Antonio Spurs, them not having a point guard really, really, really hurt them. And it, to a certain extent, it kind of hurt Victor Wembanyama. Because, again, Trey Jones is just not a point guard. And then remember, they tried to have Jeremy Sohan play point guard. It's like, yeah, no, that did not work. Y'all need to get a true point guard, and that is what Stephon Castle is. I'm telling y'all, Stephon Castle is going to be a star in the NBA because of his length, his defense, and his playmaking ability. All right, y'all, next up, we have the Detroit Pistons on the clock at pick 5. And this is going to be probably a very controversial pick, but I want y'all to hear me out, y'all. I have the Detroit Pistons selecting Dalton Knecht. And I know some people going to be like, Zay, Matas Buzelis, he's sitting out there, and Cody Williams is sitting out there. But, y'all, when I look at the Detroit Pistons, this is a team, it's time to start adding players to this team that are already NBA caliber players, y'all. What I mean by that is, you look at the last few years, I mean, the Detroit Pistons, they have, you know, selected a lot of guys that were very raw. Like, remember back in 2019, they took Sekou Doumbouya. In 2020, they took Killian Hayes, right? And then even you look last year, y'all taking Ausar Thompson, a guy who we said, hey, he's probably gonna be a great defender, but his offensive game is very raw. It's time to get guys, y'all, that are ready to go right now. And I know Dalton Knecht is 23, but y'all, his shooting is amazing. I think he's the best shooter in this draft class. And people don't give him credit for this, but he's a really good athlete. I mean, he tested very well at the combine, which leads me to believe, y'all, that he can at least be a solid defender. I mean, he'll never be a great defender, but I think Dalton Knecht could be a solid defender. But when you look at the Detroit Pistons, y'all, they really need shooting, right? I mean, this is a team that was like 26 in three-point shooting. You must improve there. You have a lot of guys on this team right now that are inconsistent or just non-shooters, right? Jaden Ivey, he's an inconsistent shooter. Ausar Thompson is a non-shooter. Isaiah Stewart, he's an inconsistent shooter. And then Jalen Duren, who I like, but he's a non-shooter. So you have to add shooting around Cade Cunningham. That's why I think it makes a lot of sense for them to take Dalton Knecht. That's why I had him taking Dalton Knecht. And not a guy like Matas Buzelis, because Matas Buzelis, y'all, his game is still raw right now. He's not a good shooter. And then Cody Williams, I like Cody Williams, but again, his game is still raw a little bit as well. The Detroit Pistons, it's time to get guys that can come in immediately and make an impact because that's going to start helping them win the games, y'all. Because the Pistons, again, like I said, they have a track record the last few years of taking guys that are projects, taking guys that need time to develop, and they have not shown they could develop him. Remember when they took Killian Hayes, and I said this a couple minutes ago, they took Killian Hayes back in 2020, and I was like, why? And a lot of us was like, why would they take him over Tyrese Halliburton? And then their former general manager, Troy Weaver, he came out and said, well, we think Killian Hayes can be the next Goran Dragic. Obviously, that never came to pass, and Killian Hayes was never able to become a good player in the NBA, and now he's out of the league. So, again, Dalton Knecht is a guy, he's ready to go from day one. He's an elite three-point shooter, very good athlete, y'all. And I just think he's made the right stuff, right? He would elevate the culture in Detroit. Go and get Dalton Knecht. All right, y'all. Next up on the clock, Dalton Knecht joined. Go to the Detroit Pistons. There we go. Next on the clock, y'all. We have the Charlotte Hornets with the 6th pick, y'all. And to me, this is a pretty easy pick. I have the Charlotte Hornets taking y'all Matas Buzelis. When I look at the Charlotte Hornets, this is a team that obviously last year they drafted Brandon Miller. And Brandon Miller, man, did he have an incredible rookie campaign, y'all. They also have Mark Williams, who unfortunately his season got cut short due to injuries. He is entering his third year. And then you have LaMelo Ball, right, star point guard, who the last couple of years he's battled through injuries. But this is a team, that has a pretty solid young nucleus. And I think you can add to that, taking a guy that has a high upside but does have bust potential. But I think if you're the Hornets, you're still rebuilding, so you can take a chance on a guy like Matas Buzelis, y'all, who kind of reminds me like Lamar Odom a little bit in terms of just being like kind of a do-it-all small forward. As we know, Lamar Odom was never a great three-point shooter. And luckily, when Lamar Odom played, considered play like in the late 90s, early 2000s, he never had to really be a great three-point shooter. Matas Buzelis is going to have to be a pretty good three-point shooter, but he can pretty much do everything else right now. I mean, he's already a great defender, especially a rim protector, right? This guy averaged 2.1 blocks for G League Ignite last season. He can bring the ball up the court. He can facilitate it. And he's very, very athletic. Again, the biggest thing with him is just his shooting and selection, because he only shot 45% this year for G League Ignite, which for a guy that has his skill set is kind of low. I thought he was going to be around 51, 52%, but again, he did take some questionable shots. But I think you pair him next to Brandon Miller, and now you have potentially your forward duo, hopefully for the next 10 years. Again, Matas Buzelis, he is a little bit raw, y'all, but he does have an incredibly high ceiling, and if he reaches that ceiling, wow, he has the chance to be a top 2 or 3 player in this draft class. All right, y'all. Next up, at pick 7, we have the Portland Trailblazers, on the clock. And y'all, I have the Portland Trailblazers taking Ron Holland. Now, listen, at the start of this season, y'all, Ron Holland was seen as a guy that could potentially go number 1 overall. Obviously, Ron Holland had a somewhat disappointing year for G League Ignite, but this is still a guy that's about 6 feet 7 inches, y'all. That's very athletic, really good defender, has a high basketball IQ, which I really love about him. He's a really good rebounder as well. And he's a guy that has decent shooting mechanics. I just feel like he needs to get more comfortable shooting threes. I don't think his mechanics are even that bad. He just needs to get more comfortable shooting threes. And he's a guy that might take a year or two, but you're the Portland Trailblazers and you're rebuilding, and you can take a flyer on this kid, right? Because again, y'all, the Blazers are not going to be, contending anytime soon. So Ron Holland is a guy that still has all those traits that we thought he could potentially be the number 1 overall pick, back in like November and December. Hey, he still has those traits, y'all. He just, unfortunately wasn't able to put it all together consistently this past year for G League Ignite. But again, you're the Portland Trailblazers. You're not going to be a good team, for at least 4 or 5 years. So you can take a chance on Ron Holland. And also, when you look at the Portland Trailblazers, y'all, they really need a small forward. They have a ton of guards, right? Malcolm Brogdon, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson. Hey, go get a forward. And why not take a chance on a guy like Ron Holland, who could potentially become an all-star player in the NBA? All right, y'all. Next up, we had the San Antonio Spurs back on the clock at pick 8. And y'all, I had the San Antonio Spurs selecting Devin Carter. Now, I know you're like, Zay, you just had them select Stephon Castle at pick 4. But y'all, I don't think that if the San Antonio Spurs take Stephon Castle at pick 4, that's going to stop them from taking another point guard at pick 8. I really love Devin Carter. I think Devin Carter, y'all, is going to be a very good NBA player. I don't think he's going to be a bust at all. Because when you look at the skills that he brings to the table, you're talking about a guy that really reminds me of Derek White, y'all, in terms of being a somewhat shorter point guard, right? Shorter guard, because Derek White is only about 6'4", but Derek White is an elite shot blocker. Devin Carter is an elite shot blocker. But I think Devin Carter, y'all, actually is a little bit better scorer than Derek White. But I really love Devin Carter. His competitive nature is off the charts, y'all, and he's an amazing rebounder. I mean, y'all see the numbers. He averaged almost 9 rebounds per game as a 6'3" guard. So this is a guy that's ready to go. That guy that can step right in next to Stephon Castle and create a really good backcourt. And also, if you're the San Antonio Spurs, this would be a good pick too, because Devin Carter is a really safe pick, whereas Stephon Castle is a little bit, and even though I love Stephon Castle, I would admit, yeah, he's a little bit of a project still because of his offensive game, particularly his three-point shooting, his pull-up game. But Devin Carter is a guy that doesn't really have any, weaknesses in his game. And he's a guy day one that will be ready to go play alongside Victor Wembanyama and give the Spurs kind of a Derek White 2.0. But again, I think he could be better than Derek White. So I really love Devin Carter. If the name sounds familiar, y'all, it's because his father, Anthony Carter, who used to play in the NBA for the Denver Nuggets. So y'all may be like, hey, Devin Carter, I wonder who his father is. Yeah, his father is Anthony Carter, who used to play at the NBA. But yeah, I really like Devin Carter, y'all, and I think that pick makes a ton of sense. All right, y'all, at pick 9, we have the Memphis Grizzlies on the clock. And y'all, I have the Memphis Grizzlies selecting Donovan Clingan. Now, we know, and I think I said this to start off this live stream, we know, y'all, that the Memphis Grizzlies, that the Atlanta Hawks are reportedly interested in Donovan Clingan. But y'all, I do not think they're going to take him at number 1 overall. So I think because of this, he's probably going to slide, because when you look at the rest of the teams, I have the Wizards taking Alex Sarr. The Rockets don't need a center because they got Alperen Sengun. The Hornets don't need a center. The Spurs don't need a center. The Pistons don't need a center. And the Blazers don't need a center, right? So I think, y'all, there's a great chance that if Donovan Clingan does not go number 1 overall to the Atlanta Hawks, he is going to go, or he's going to fall, I should say, to the Memphis Grizzlies. And I know the Grizzlies fans will love this because y'all have been wanting the Grizzlies to trade up to take Donovan Clingan. But I like Donovan Clingan. I think he would fit very well next to Jaren Jackson Jr. This would allow Jaren Jackson Jr. y'all to go back to his natural position, which is that power forward position, and allow Donovan Clingan to step in to be the center. Donovan Clingan, y'all, he's an elite rim protector. Him and Jaren Jackson Jr. on the same team would be like the best shot blocking front court in a very long time. Like, seriously, because you're talking about 2 guys that are just elite shot blockers, 2 guys that really cover a lot of space. And, y'all, he will also help the Grizzlies in terms of rebounding, right? Because the Grizzlies have not been a very good rebounding team the last few years. Why? Because they just have lacked that size. But you add a guy like Donovan Clingan, and we saw, y'all, Donovan Clingan, he was showing some stuff at the combine, showing some stuff in terms of three-point shooting, corner three-point shooting. So if Donovan Clingan ends up becoming a solid corner three-point shooter, wow, okay, this could really be scary hours for the rest of the NBA. But for the Memphis Grizzlies, I think this makes too much sense. They need a center, right? They traded off Steven Adams last year. You need a center. Go and get Donovan Clingan and allow Jaren Jackson Jr. to go back to his natural position, which is the power forward spot. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? All right, y'all. Next up at pick 10, we have sorry, I got fired up a little bit. We have the Utah Jazz, and y'all, I have the Utah Jazz. Give me 1 second. I have the Utah Jazz selecting Nikola Topic, y'all. When I look at the Utah Jazz, this is the team that I like what they have in terms of their wings, right? They have Lauri Markkanen. They drafted Taylor Hendricks last year. They also got Bryce Sensabaugh. They traded for John Collins last year, so I like the wing spot. They have Walker Kessler. But when you look at that guard position, that's where it gets a kind of shaky, y'all, because they drafted Keontae George, but I think Keontae George is more of a shooting guard. They still have Colin Sexton. I think they're probably going to trade him. They still have Jordan Clarkson as well, but I think they're probably going to trade him. But, y'all, you would slide in Nikola Topic, y'all, who's a big point guard. He reminds me of Goran Dragic. Remember a few minutes ago I was talking about Killian Hayes, and Troy Weaver said he reminded him of Goran Dragic. With Nikola Topic, y'all, he really reminds me of Goran Dragic, man. He's very crafty, y'all. A very, very, very great playmaking point guard. And that's really what the Utah Jazz need, right? A playmaking point guard that has some size. All their guards right now are undersized. Keontae George is undersized. Jordan Clarkson is undersized. And Colin Sexton is undersized. When Nikola Topic, he will give you a big point guard. Again, he's very crafty, y'all. I know he needs to improve his shooting. And I know he has, problems in terms of his knee. But I'm willing to bank that this kid can get healthy at least by next year. Even if he didn't play this coming up season, y'all, by next year, I think Nikola Topic will be ready to go. And he can end up becoming a very good player for the Utah Jazz. So I like them to take him. I still think he's going to be selected in the top 10. I know some people think he's going to fall to maybe, in the 15 to 20 range, but y'all just think Nikola Topic is too talented. And because of his height and playmaking ability at the point guard spot, I think teams are still going to cover that. All right, y'all, next up at pick 11, we have the Chicago Bulls. And obviously, we know yesterday the Chicago Bulls made kind of a big trade. They traded away Alex Caruso, and in return, they got Josh Giddey. So now they have Josh Giddey and Kobe White in the backcourt. We'll see how that works out. But now, y'all, when I look at the Chicago Bulls, they're in rebuild mode, or at least they should be. I think they should trade Zach LaVine. I don't think they should re-sign DeMar DeRozan. And also, y'all, I think they should trade Nikola Vucevic. So because of that, I had them taking a high upside prospect, y'all. I had them taking Tijon Saloon. I look at the Chicago Bulls, and because they are in rebuild mode, or at least they should be in rebuild mode, they should take a chance on Tijon Saloon, y'all. A guy that some people think could potentially be a top 5 player in this draft class if he reaches his ceiling. I think at the very least, he could become kind of like a Tobias Harris with better defense. That's what I think he could become, y'all. He could become. That's the key word. He could become Tobias Harris with better defense, but he's a tall, 3-and-D, kind of small / power forward, can guard. I think he'd be able to guard like 4 positions in the NBA. And I think, y'all, for him, it's going to come down to really his shot creation ability, because we saw him in France. He would, sometimes show some things in terms of being a shot creator. If he could be more consistent with his shot creation ability, man, okay, now Tijon Saloon, he could actually end up becoming the player that some people think he could become. And I think for the Chicago Bulls, you have time to wait on him to reach his ceiling. But for the Bulls, y'all, it's going to be very important that they develop this kid if they draft him, because we saw back in 2020, they took Patrick Williams, and unfortunately, they were not really able to develop him. Now, some of that was because Patrick Williams was injured a couple of seasons. He missed a large chunk of those seasons, but also, y'all, it was because the Chicago Bulls failed to really develop him. So if they take Tijon Saloon, they will have to develop him. But I just think he makes too much sense at this point in the draft. I know some people think he go a little bit higher than this, like maybe to the Pistons or to the Hornets, but I don't think they're going to go that route. But for the Bulls, you're a rebuilding team. Hey, you got a chance to take a guy that, again, some people think could be a top 5 player in this draft class when it's all said and done. All right, y'all, next up at pick 12, if Tijon Saloon would join the Bulls. All right, next up, y'all, at pick 12, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. And for me, y'all, this is going to be another controversial pick. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that has the Thunder selecting this guy. But it's okay, because I think the fit is insane, y'all. I have the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting DaRon Holmes. Yes, you heard it right. Zay has the Oklahoma City Thunder selecting DaRon Holmes. Y'all, when I look at the Thunder, to me, this team is pretty much complete except one area, y'all. That's that power forward spot. Because last year, they had Jalen Williams playing the power forward position. And y'all, listen, I love J-Dub. I think he's going to be a future all-star. But he is not a power forward, right? He just does not have the size and strength to bang down there. He is a 3. But y'all, you add DaRon Holmes next to Chet Holmgren, and man, now the Thunder, to me, are the best team in the Western Conference, y'all, because, I mean, they already have Shea. They have Chet Holmgren. They just traded for Alex Caruso. You have Jalen Williams, right? You have Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, and Cason Wallace coming off that bench. You just need to go and add a power forward, y'all. And I love DaRon Holmes. I think he's going to be the next Miles Turner. Man, I'm telling you, DaRon Holmes, I think is going to be a very, very, very good player in the NBA. And I think his numbers might not show it because, if he gets drafted by the Thunder, they do have a lot of dudes that can score the ball. But he is going to be a guy, I'm telling y'all, DaRon Holmes is going to be a very good player in the NBA. He's a great 3-point shooter, and he's also a really good rim protector. I know some people think he's just an offensive player, but y'all, this dude averaged about 2.1 blocks per game this past season for the Dayton Flyers. He's very strong. He's a good rebounder, and that's what the Thunder need, right? They need size. They need rebounding. But, to play for the Thunder, you have to be able to be athletic, and you have to be able to shoot the ball. Those are 2 things that he brings to the table alongside with his defense and his rim protection. So I just think this makes too much sense. Again, I know people are probably like, hey, what, DaRon Holmes going 12? But I want y'all to just think about it. From a fit perspective, it makes a ton of sense because the Thunder really need a power forward, and DaRon Holmes, he fits what the Thunder want to do, y'all, because we know the Thunder, they're all about, again, athleticism, shooting, versatility, and defense. Those are all things that he brings to the table. So why would they not be interested in him? I had them taking DaRon Holmes. Again, I'm a big fan of that kid. All right, y'all, next up, we had the Sacramento Kings on the clock at pick 13. And, y'all, this was an easy pick for me. I have the Sacramento Kings selecting Cody Williams. When you look at the Kings, I know some people could have made a case for Zay. You could have selected Rob Dillingham, but y'all, last night and I posted this in the community tab, but last night the Sacramento Kings agreed to a 4-year, $78 million contract extension with Malik Monk. And so because of that, now they don't really need, a guard per se. They could really, and I don't know why this has Cody Williams listed as a shooting guard, because he's really like a small / power forward. But y'all, they really need wing depth. And when you look at the Sacramento Kings, I think that's what's holding them back. Because listen, Harrison Barnes, I respect everything he's done. He's a good veteran player. But y'all, Harrison Barnes, he's just limited to what he can do. You talking about Cody Williams, though? Y'all, I think we're talking about a guy that could be like a 15 to 17 point per game scorer while giving you elite defense and also being able to create his own shot. Because I think Cody Williams is more than just a 3-and-D player. We saw him this past year at Colorado. Okay, he showed some self-creation skills and ability. If he's able just to, do that a little bit more, I think Cody Williams is going to be a very good player in the NBA. And when you look at this Kings, man, they need defense, y'all. But they really need defense at that wing spot. That's what Cody Williams is. Now, I think Cody Williams, honestly, I think he could go as high as 5 to the Pistons. So he might not even be on the board for the Sacramento Kings to take. But if he's here, y'all, I think the Sacramento Kings really will have to consider taking him, because the fit just makes too much sense. And considering that they need a defense at that wing spot, but you wouldn't be compromising any shooting because Cody Williams can shoot the ball. So I just think this makes too much sense. I had them taking Cody Williams. All right, y'all. Next up, pick 14. We had the Portland Trailblazers back on the clock. And y'all, with the first pick, the Blazers had to pick 7. I had them take, a little bit of a project in Ron Holland. But this time, y'all, pick 14, I had the Blazers playing this safe, and I had them taking Tristan da Silva. Y'all, Tristan da Silva, I think at the bare minimum, he is going to be a very solid backup 3-and-D power forward, very least. Now, maybe more so 3, because I know his defense is still a little bit shaky. But at very least, that's what he's going to be, with maybe the potential to be a really good starting power forward. But I think he does have some athletic limitations, but y'all, he probably is not going to be a bust because he is a very good shooter. He's a solid team defender. I don't think he'll ever be a great one-on-one defender, a great perimeter defender, but he's a solid team defender, and he's really good moving out the basketball. And when you look at the Portland Trailblazers, again, like I said a few minutes ago with Ron Holland, y'all, they have a lot of guards on this team. Hey, continue to add wings. So you add Ron Holland, you add Tristan da Silva. Now you add depth to that small / power forward position. And again, Tristan da Silva, y'all, he just really should not be a bust because he is a good 3-point shooter. He is a solid team defender, and he is a really good mover out the basketball. So I really like them getting Tristan da Silva here. All right, y'all, next up, pick 15, we had the Miami Heat. And y'all, if this guy is still here, Pat Riley and the Miami Heat should waste no time, in selecting this guy, y'all. I had them taking Rob Dillingham. Now, I know some of y'all are going to say, Zay, Rob Dillingham is arguably a top 5 player in this draft class. Why did he fall all the way to pick 15? Well, y'all, I'll tell you the reason I think Rob Dillingham might fall to 15, and the reason I have him falling to 15. The reason I think Rob Dillingham might end up falling to 15 is because of his height, right? He's only about 6'1". We know some teams don't love, to take undersized point guards, especially in this draft class where you do have some bigger point guards, right? Like Nikola Topic, Stephon Castle. You're talking about 2 guys that are big point guards. Rob Dillingham isn't a big point guard, so they can scare teams away. And also, you talk about his defense, y'all. I mean, he's never probably going to be a good defender because of his height. But when you look at the Miami Heat, y'all, I mean, the Miami Heat desperately need to add athleticism, and shooting in that backcourt. You talking about a team, y'all, that was 26 in points per game, and they were 29th in pace. I mean, the Miami Heat, man, they just play so old-fashioned, so old school. It's time to add some athleticism, some youth, some craftiness in that backcourt, and that's what Rob Dillingham brings you, y'all. I mean, he is an electrifying scorer. He would give the Miami Heat a really good offensive scoring duo with him and Tyler Hero. I just think this makes too much sense with the Miami Heat because, again, y'all, the Miami Heat need to become a better offensive team. Listen, I know they're known for defensive toughness and grittiness, but in today's game, you got to be able to put points up on the board. So I think you add Rob Dillingham, and yes, He's not going to be a good defender, but okay, because the Heat already have good defenders. At some point in time, Heat, you have to add offensive players to your roster, dudes that can just flat out score, and that's what Rob Dillingham could do. I love this, y'all. Rob Dillingham is very tough. So I know he's short, he's small, but he's very tough. All right, y'all. Next up at pick 16, we have the Philadelphia 76ers, y'all. And I had them taking Ja'Kobe Walter. When I look at the Philadelphia 76ers, there's a chance that they are going to lose DeAnthony Melton, Kelly Oubre Jr., and Tobias Harris, right? That's a lot of production like at that wing spot. And you look at Ja'Kobe Walter, and I know some people have kind of like soured on him because some people thought he was going to have a better year than he did at Baylor. I still don't even think he had a bad year. I just think he needs to cut out some of the bad shots. But he's a solid a three-point shooter. I know he only shot 34%, but y'all, that's still better than a lot of players. And I love his defense intensity, that he brings to the table. He doesn't become a better and more consistent defender. But man, I'm telling y'all, Ja'Kobe Walter, him and Tyrese Maxey in the same backcourt would be really fun to watch. And he could come off the bench on. That's what the Sixers need, right? They need more bench production. Because we saw when Joel Embiid was out, I mean, it was really Tyrese Maxey, and that's it. Because we know we know Tobias Harris was very inconsistent, very up and down for them. So they need to add, more scoring to the team, more scoring off the bench. Ja'Kobe Walter give you that. And he also brings a level of defense, especially, y'all, again, when Ja'Kobe Walter, when he feels like playing defense, I mean, he can really lock up darn near anybody. We just need to get him to be a little more consistent on that side of the ball. But I really like him. And the value to me, getting a player of his caliber at pick 16 is insane. All right, y'all, next up at pick 17, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. And y'all, I have the Los Angeles Lakers selecting Khalil Ware. When I look at the LA Lakers, man, they need to add a center. We know, y'all, for years, literally, it feels like for years, Anthony Davis has complained about having to play, so much at the center spot because that takes a toll on his body. So I think you draft Khalil Ware, Khalil Ware had a great year for the Indiana Hoosiers. Obviously, his freshman year, he was playing for the Oregon Ducks. They didn't go to plan, so he transferred to Indiana, had a phenomenal year, averaged about 16 points, 10 rebounds, had a really good year defensively, y'all, and shot about 42% from three. Now, he did take a lot of attempts for three, but his mechanics look good. I think he'll become like a 36, 37, 38% three-point shooter in the NBA. He's a great lob threat. And y'all, when I look at the LA Lakers, I mean, must add size, must add a center, really add a center to this team again, so that way Anthony Davis can go back to his more traditional position, which is that power forward spot. And I think Khalil Ware, y'all, could kind of have an impact like Derek Lively had this year for the Dallas Mavericks, right? I mean, Derek Lively as a rookie was very important to the Dallas Mavericks' success. And I think Khalil Ware, if he was to get drafted by the Lakers, he would be very important to their success this coming up season. And, just love the fit with Khalil Ware. Adding a young athletic center, y'all, that has potential to be a very good shooter, yeah, that's great. And we know the Lakers also could use more shooting, and they've been looking to find, a three-point shooting big to pair next to Anthony Davis for some time now. All right, y'all, next up at pick 18, we have the Orlando Magic. Shout out to all my Magic fans out there. I see my man John's up in here. I know he's a Magic fan. What's going on with you, man? But next up, y'all, the Orlando Magic. I think this is a pretty easy pick. I had him take Jared McCain. Y'all think Jared McCain is probably the second best three-point shooter in this draft class behind Dalton Knecht, in my opinion. But Jared McCain would finally give the Orlando Magic some much-needed shooting in that backcourt, y'all. I know the Orlando Magic list, they love to add guys, that are really tall, that are great defenders. And I know Jared McCain doesn't fit that bill, but y'all, forget about that, okay? Magic, y'all have a lot of defense. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., Jalen Suggs. It is time to add some scoring and shooting to this team, man, particularly to the backcourt, because you don't have any. Markelle Fultz is not a good shooter. Cole Anthony is very up and down, and your only proven shooter right now is Jalen Suggs, and even he's still not a great three-point shooter. But Jared McCain, y'all, Jared McCain has potential to be kind of like the next J.J. Redick in a sense. Kind of funny I say that. In terms of, I think Jared McCain could be like a 40% three-point shooter for 10 years in a row. I know that's incredibly hard to do, but I think he has that ability, y'all. And he's also a good rebounder, right? For his size, Jeremy McCain is a good rebounder, and I think he has the potential to be a decent defender. I don't think he'll be a great defender or even a good defender, but I think he has potential to be a decent defender. But when you look at his shooting ability, man, and his shot creation ability, the Orlando Magic, they just don't have a player on the team that brings to the table what Jeremy McCain brings to the table. So I just think if you're the Magic at some point in time, you have to add some shooting and shot creation in your backcourt, just really to this team in general. Again, I know the Orlando Magic, they love guys that can play defense, and they love guys that are super versatile. Jeremy McCain is not that, but he does bring something that this team does not have right now, and that is shooting and shot creation. So I just think this makes too much sense. Magic, please go and get somebody that can shoot and shot create for themselves. Please, I beg you. All right, next up, y'all, we had the Toronto Raptors at pick 19. And y'all, I think Toronto Raptors could go a lot of ways. And some people will probably disagree with me on this pick, but that's A-okay, y'all. I have the Toronto Raptors selected Zach Edey. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people are questioning how Zach Edey is going to be able to translate in the NBA. But y'all, at the end of the day, Zach Edey is 7'3" with like a 7'7" wingspan. Okay? That's all you need to know. At the very least, he's going to be a very serviceable backup center that can give you maybe 15 to 18 minutes off the bench. Okay, that's all you need to know. So, yes, I know he doesn't have the foot quickness to really, keep up in today's game per se. I know he's not a shooting big, which in today's game is kind of hard to be a big man and not be able to shoot a little bit. But y'all, again, he's 7'3", 7'7" wingspan, and is a very good rebounder and rim protector. And when you look at the Toronto Raptors, that's what they need. Right now, they got Jakob Poeltl. Y'all, Jakob Poeltl's not getting it done. Okay? The Toronto Raptors, I would say, for probably the last 3 or 4 years, they've been looking to add more size to their front court. They have failed to do so. Well, you have the opportunity to add Zach Edey. Why would you pass that up? So I think Zach Edey is going to be, again, at least a solid backup center. That's fine, y'all. Not everybody. First off, this is not even a great draft class, let's be honest. But secondly, y'all, not everybody has to be a star player. It's good just to have good role players. And at the end of the day, you're not going to find too many dudes walking around that has Zach Edey's measurables. Toronto Raptors, again, you need to add size to this team because you have a good nucleus, right? Scotty Barnes. And then last season, you traded for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Beard. But you're still lacking at that center spot. So I like them to take Zach Edey again. Probably controversial to some of y'all, but y'all, again, I just think Zach Edey is going to be at least a solid player. All right, next up, y'all, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. And to me, the Cleveland Cavaliers are probably one of the more interesting teams in this draft, y'all, because you really, really, really don't know what the Cavs are going to do, right? Because they could select the point guard if they plan on moving on from Darius Garland. But I think, y'all, the Cleveland Cavaliers should target a wing, and I had them taking Keyshawn George, y'all. When I look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, they had a ton of problems in that Celtics series going up against Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum-Watt because they just didn't have the size / the defense at the wing position to even be able to stand a chance going against those guys. But you add a guy, y'all, and Keyshawn George, who's about 6'7", really good wingspan. Right now, all he can do is really just sit in the corner and hit threes. That's okay because the Cavs really don't need scoring. They just need his size, his length, and his defense, which he definitely has all three of those traits, y'all. So when I look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, you have to add some wing defense, and Keyshawn George, he definitely brings that to the table, y'all. And here's the thing. Let's say he just becomes Isaac Okoro. That's okay, right? As y'all know, or as some of y'all might not know, Isaac Okoro is a restricted free agent. Okay? They remember the Cavs selected him 5th overall back in 2020. He never became more than just a 3-and-D player, but that's okay. But here's the thing. Keyshawn George is actually a couple of inches taller than Isaac Okoro, which, means he can play a couple of more positions and guard a couple of more positions than Isaac Okoro could. So I love this from a fit perspective. I just like Keyshawn George as a player. I just think he's going to be a very good 3-and-D player. kind of Matisse Thybulle like, but with better 3-point shooting. That's kind of why I compare him to. So I like the Cavs to take him. All right, next up, y'all, we have the New Orleans Pelicans on the clock. And the Pelicans, man, there are a lot of trade rumors, y'all, circling around Brandon Ingram's head. We don't know what's going on. I think they probably are going to trade Brandon Ingram, but as of right now, he's still on the team. But y'all, when I look at the New Orleans Pelicans, I think they need to find their point guard of the future, y'all. And I think that guy is Isaiah Collier, point guard out of USC. Now, listen, Isaiah Collier at the beginning of the season was seen as a top 3 pick. Obviously, the season he had at USC did not go according to plan, even though it was still, solid, but didn't go according to plan. Obviously, USC as a team was not very good. And then Isaiah Collier ended up getting injured. But y'all, you're talking about a kid, though, that has tremendous upside. He reminds me of Tyreke Evans and Baron Davis, man. He just a very strong point guard, y'all. Can really attack the paint, get down here, solid passer. And I think when he wants to be, he can be a really good defender. He's very inconsistent as a defender right now. He is very turnover prone. And obviously, we know the biggest weakness that he has right now, y'all, is his shooting, right? Not even just his 3-point shooting, it's his free throw shooting. I mean, this past season for USC, he shot 67% from the free throw line. That's obviously not going to cut it if you want to be an NBA point guard. But when you look at the New Orleans Pelicans, y'all, this move could really pay off in a major way, okay? In a major way. Because if Isaiah Collier really just fixes his shooting and just can cut down on his turnovers, I mean, he has a chance to be a electrifying point guard in the NBA. Again, y'all, I compare him to Baron Davis and Tyreke Evans. I do like Isaiah Collier. I don't, love him like some people. I know some people are really big fans of his game. I like him, but I need to see more of him in terms of his shooting. I need to see his shooting get a whole lot better. I need to see him cut down on the turnovers, and I need to see him just be more consistent on the defensive end. But if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, man, if he's still sitting here, I mean, you have to select him. Like, no question about it, y'all. They would have to select him. So I like them to take Isaiah Collier. Again, if this works out, wow. I mean, you're talking about the Pelicans will be getting a guy that has top 3 talent at pick 21. Yeah, I mean, that could be the steal of the draft. All right, y'all. Next up, we have the Phoenix Suns on the clock. And as y'all know, the Suns, very disappointing into their season, getting swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves around 1. And y'all, we saw, man, the Phoenix Suns just do not have the size, nor the defense or the athleticism in the front court to really keep up with the elite teams in the Western Conference, really in the entire NBA, but particularly the Western Conference, since they are in the Western Conference. And so, y'all, I had them taken. And I know Suns fans are probably like, no, Zay, we need to take a point guard. But, y'all, I had them taking Yves Missi, athletic center out of Baylor. Y'all, Yves Missi, he reminds me so much of Clint Capella, man. I mean, just uber athletic, right? Has a big catch radius. He's a big lob threat, y'all. Very great defender. And I know this year he only averaged, about 5.5 rebounds per game. But I think in the NBA, he could be a guy that averages like 9, 10, 11 rebounds per game. I know he didn't play that much at Baylor. Some of that was because he was in foul trouble. But, y'all, I just think for the Phoenix Suns, I know some people, particularly Suns fans, will be like, hey, we need a point guard. And, yes, y'all do need a point guard. But I think you really, really, really need size, length, and athleticism in that front court, particularly at the center spot, y'all, because Jusuf Nurkic is just not a good player. I mean, he isn't, right? He'll show spurts of being a solid player offensively, but as a total package, he just doesn't bring it. His defense is really bad. Yves Missi is already a better defender than Jusuf Nurkic has ever been in his NBA career. He's already, I think, a better rebounder. So I just think Yves Missi would be a tremendous fit for the Phoenix Suns, giving them some much needed, again, size, length, defense, and athleticism. Y'all, the Phoenix Suns are hoping to contend next year, right? And actually contend for the championship. They don't want to get bounced around one again. Well, you have to get some size, man, in your front court. Get some size and some defense in that front court to be able to compete with the Mavericks and the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets. You have to do that. And so I think Yves Missi makes a ton of sense. Again, I know some Suns fans are going to want a point guard, but y'all can get a veteran point guard. You need to add a center, need to add size to that front court. All right, next up, y'all, we have the Milwaukee Bucks at pick 23. And y'all, when I was doing this, it was a very easy pick for me. I have the Milwaukee Bucks taking Ryan Dunn. I think Ryan Dunn is the best perimeter defender in this draft class. You talk about a guy, y'all, that this past year for Virginia, he averaged about 2.3 blocks per game and 1.2 steals per game. But y'all, it goes beyond just the stats, right? Because I mean, Ryan Dunn, he just hounds opposing point guards and shooting guards and small forwards. He really gets into you, man. He moves his feet very well, y'all. He has really good size. I mean, I even saw him lock down some power forwards. And I know he's only 6'6", about 215 pounds, but because of his athleticism and his length, he can guard some guys that are much bigger than him. So I think for the Milwaukee Bucks, obviously we know they really need defense. They can score, but they really need defense. Now, Ryan Dunn is not a great three-point shooter at all. He's actually a pretty poor three-point shooter. But that's okay because Milwaukee Bucks don't need his shooting right now. What they need is his defense, and Ryan Dunn definitely can play some defense, y'all. Again, I think he's the best perimeter defender in this draft class. And if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to take him. I think, seriously, to me, they have to take Ryan Dunn because this team desperately needs more defense. All right, next up, y'all. Actually, the next two picks, we have the New York Knicks at pick 24 and at pick 25, y'all. And at pick 24, I have the New York Knicks selecting Kyle Filipowski, y'all. When I look at the New York Knicks, there's a great chance that they are going to lose Isaiah Hartenstein. And if you lose Isaiah Hartenstein, you need somebody that can come in and fill his role. And y'all, let's be honest. I mean, Kyle Filipowski should be better than Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Because he can shoot the three ball, unlike Isaiah Hartenstein. But you look at Kyle Filipowski, he's a guy, y'all, that has good size. Now, he is a little undersized probably to be a center because he is only about 6'10". But I think he can still play, like some quote-unquote small ball center. But he's a guy, y'all, that I think could go higher than this potentially. I think watch out for maybe him going to the Raptors. I haven't taken Zach Edey, but I think, Kyle Filipowski could go to the Raptors. I think he also could maybe go to my Lakers at pick 17. But I think people are really underrating this guy. I think the reason that people are not as high on Kyle Filipowski as probably they should be, y'all, is because of his defense. He's not a horrible defender, but he's not a great defender. Like a guy like a Yves Missi or Khalil Ware, right? They're better defenders than Kyle Filipowski. But, I mean, y'all, his offensive game is really good, and he's also a really good passer. And I think for the New York Knicks, it wouldn't be a bad thing to add some more scoring, though, because we saw last year, when OG Anunoby and Julius Randle without y'all, they did have times where they struggled to score the ball, and Jalen Brunson was really like their only consistent scoring threat out there. Well, Kyle Filipowski gives you a big guy that can shoot a three ball well, has a really good poster game, and he also is a good playmaker. And y'all, I wouldn't be too concerned about his defense because if he goes to the Knicks, he would be playing for Tom Thibodeau. We know Tom Thibodeau, he is known for his defense. I think he can mold Kyle Filipowski into a little bit better defender. So I just love the Knicks taking him. And then, y'all, at pick 25, I had the New York Knicks taking a little bit of a project. I had them taking Johnny Furphy. When I look at the New York Knicks, Bojan Bogdanovic, y'all, he has a year left on his deal, right? And he's getting up there in age, right? He's 36 now, and I think this potentially could be his last year for the New York Knicks. And so because of that, I think you could select his replacement a year early and take Johnny Furphy. Now, Johnny Furphy is very raw in terms of his NBA body, right? He's only about 189 pounds, y'all, and he's definitely not the most athletic guy. But I really love his shooting ability. I love his size, right? He's a big guard. He's about 6'8" as a shooting guard, so I love his size. That projects in terms of him being able to play maybe 3 positions in the NBA. But he is a guy that's probably going to take a year. He probably will have to spend some time in the G League, but that's okay because the New York Knicks wouldn't need him to play right away. That's why I haven't selected him because, again, they still have Bojan Bogdanovic on the team, but I just think, again, by next year, he probably would be gone. And then next year, that's when you'll see Johnny Furphy be ready to play. He needs to add some muscle. Again, he probably would spend some time in the G League this year, but that's okay. But he just makes a lot of sense in terms of what he can bring to the table. And I think for the New York Knicks, hey, take a guy that has some high upside because you would not need him to play this year anyways. All right, y'all, next up, we have the Washington Wizards on the clock. And to me, y'all, this was an easy pick for me. I have the Washington Wizards selecting Tyler Kolek. When you look at the Washington Wizards, they really, really, really need that franchise point guard. I know they have Jordan Poole, but come on, y'all. Jordan Poole ain't no. First of all, I don't think Jordan Poole is a point guard, and then he's definitely not a franchise point guard. And then they also have Tyus Jones. I like Tyus Jones, but Tyus Jones is only a good enough player. I think Tyler Kolek could be a really good player. Y'all, he's a wizard with the basketball in his hands, is an elite playmaker, really knows how to find his teammates. Feels like that's what the Wizards need, right? You need to find that franchise point guard. I mean, they've been looking for their franchise point guard, since John Wall left, since they traded John Wall. So Tyler Kolek can be that guy. Not the most athletic guy, but he's tough as nails, y'all. He'll compete defensively, even though he's a little undersized. Very good three-point shooter, but really it's his playmaking that stands out, y'all. Again, he's a wizard with the basketball, elite playmaker point guard. That is what the Washington Wizards need. All right, y'all. Next up, pick 27. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves on the clock, y'all. And I had them taking Carlton, a.k.a. Bub Carrington, y'all, with this pick. When you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, we saw in that series against the Dallas Mavericks, y'all, they really need more shooting and more scoring. And when I look at Carlton Carrington, again, a.k.a. Bub, that's his nickname, he definitely would bring that shooting and scoring off the bench that the Minnesota Timberwolves need. And then he could be their long-term point guard, right? I mean, Mike Conley is still playing well, but Mike Conley is 37 years old. He probably only has a couple of years left. And the Minnesota Timberwolves have to start thinking about the future. You look at the guy in Carlton Carrington, y'all, who I think is just a really solid all-around player. I don't think he's a good or great player, but he's just a really solid all-around player. I think he's going to be a better shooter in the NBA than he was at Pitt. Because let's be honest, at Pitt, I mean, he was asked to do a lot. I know he only shot 33% from three at Pitt. But again, y'all, I think he's going to be a better shooter because his mechanics look pretty solid. His form look pretty solid. So I just think Carlton Carrington is going to be just a very solid all-around player. A guy that's probably going to average, I think his best, y'all, he can average probably like, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. I'm telling you, he's just going to be a really solid all-around player. But his scoring ability is going to be greatly appreciated for the Minnesota Timberwolves, considering, y'all, that they had no problems scoring at times. And again, we really saw it in that series against the Mavericks, and they need to surround Anthony Edwards with some more scoring and shooting guys. So I had them taking Carlton Carrington right here. All right, y'all, next up at pick 28, we have the Denver Nuggets. And, y'all, the Denver Nuggets need a guy that is ready to play right away. Because this is a team, obviously, their season ended prematurely. They got bounced in the second round. So they need a guy that can step in and contribute right away, y'all. And I think the guy that can really do that is Baylor Scheierman. When I look at the Denver Nuggets, y'all, there's a chance that they might lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope because, man, KCP, y'all, I'm telling you, he's going to get a good amount on the open market. And if they lose him, they're going to need, a replacement. Obviously, they have Christian Brown right now, shooting guard. But I think Baylor Scheierman, y'all, there's a chance that he could, if he's drafted by the Nuggets, I think he would start day one. There's a chance. Now, I'm not saying it would definitively happen, but I think there's a chance he could start day one. I mean, this is a guy to me that is one of the most NBA-ready players in this draft class. I think Dalton Knecht is NBA-ready. I think Reed Shepard's NBA ready. I think Devin Carter's NBA ready. And y'all, I think Baylor Scheierman is NBA ready. This is a guy that's a very just solid player all around, but offensively, really. Now, his defense is not great, right? He's about 6'7", y'all. Not a good shot blocker, right? And his lateral quickness is average at best. But I mean, he's a very high IQ player. Really good mover, really good rebounder too, right? Average 9 rebounds per game, y'all. Can shoot the lights out of the basketball. Very good three-point shooter, and he's a team player. And we know the Denver Nuggets, they are a well-oiled machine, y'all. I mean, I know Nikola Jokic is a superstar player, but the rest of that starting lineup, they all can make contributions, right? Jamal Murray, KCP, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr. They just play as a really great 5-man unit, well-oiled machine. I think Baylor Scheierman, y'all, he can come in and step in right away and contribute from day one. That is what the Denver Nuggets need because they want to get back to the finals, this coming up season to win it. So you need a guy that's ready to go right now. I know they could, take some of these other guys like a Tyler Smith that's a little bit of a project, or like a Bobby Clement, y'all. But again, those guys are like projects. Baylor Scheierman, he is ready to go from day one. All right, y'all. Next up at pick 29, we have the Utah Jazz back on the clock. And with the first pick, y'all, their 10th overall pick, Adam taking Nikola Topic. Well, y'all, at this pick, and I just kind of spoke on him. With this pick, I had him taking Tyler Smith. I think if you're the Utah Jazz, hey, you can do this. Now, I know Tyler Smith is a little bit of a reach. Some people say this is a reach because I know some people think he should go like in the 40s. But Tyler Smith, y'all, I mean, I really love his traits, right? He reminds me of a lesser version kind of Taylor Hendricks, a guy that's already on the Utah Jazz. Now, the big difference between Taylor Hendricks and Tyler Smith is what? Like the shooting and the consistency. But Tyler Smith, y'all, I mean, he's super athletic. He can really run down the court. Very good defender, man. Like even defending point guards. So I think this is the guy that's going to be an all NBA level type defender. And I know that the Utah Jazz already have like a lot of wings, a lot of force on their team. But hey, Tyler Smith probably wouldn't play this year. He probably would spend the year in the G League, probably. So it would be okay. And I think y'all, if you're a Utah Jazz, hey, you just sit back and wait and see what he can do. And you can potentially, reap the benefits of selecting him. So I like them to take Tyler Smith right here. I think it makes a ton of sense for a team that's rebuilding. And then finally, y'all, we have the NBA champion Boston Celtics with the 30th pick, y'all. And this is a pretty straightforward pick for me. I have the Boston Celtics selecting Terrence Shannon Jr. You look at Terrence Shannon Jr. Yes, he's an older prospect. Yes, he's already 23 years old. But he's a guy, y'all, that I mean is going to be able to immediately play, right? Because I mean, he really doesn't have much weakness, in his game. He's very athletic. He can shoot a three ball. He's a really solid defender, and he brings a level of intensity that the Boston Celtics would love. And he would get them some scoring off the bench. I will say this about the Boston Celtics: they don't have much scoring off the bench. It's really Sam Hauser. We know Sam Hauser. He's just a 3-point shooter. That's it, like a catch and shoot guy. And then there's Peyton Pritchard. He's the same deal. He's just a catch and shoot guy. But y'all, Terrence Shannon Jr. can actually make plays for himself, right? Very good shot creator. A very good driver to basketball. Like I said, he's a very good 3-point shooter. So I think he would give the Celtics some much needed scoring off their bench. And this would kind of maybe allow them to keep, some of their players fresh throughout the regular season, because they did have to play their starters, a pretty good amount of minutes, even though they were blowing out most teams this past season. But they did have to play their starters a good amount of minutes because, they didn't have the greatest bench. Obviously, you have Al Horford. Again, you have Peyton Pritchard and you have Sam Hauser. But Terrence Shannon Jr. would give you somebody that's a little bit younger than those guys, and also somebody that, again, with his shot creation, he would just be better than Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser. I think he makes a ton of sense for the Boston Celtics, considering they're a team that's looking to go back-to-back. So there y'all have it, man. That is my 2024 NBA mock draft 1.0. Y'all been live for almost an hour, man. If y'all enjoyed this, say yes, Zay. Yeah, y'all had a ton of fun doing this. Next week, I will be dropping my last and final, or excuse me, I should say I will be dropping my last mock draft, y'all. Let's see, the draft is on the 26th, which is next Wednesday. So I will be dropping my last mock draft probably. Actually, I'll be dropping it next Wednesday, y'all. Let's do that. I'll drop my last mock draft next Wednesday. Obviously, it would be before the draft comes on. But yeah, my last mock draft next Wednesday. Might tweak some things up a little bit. But yeah, y'all, hope y'all enjoyed this. I cannot believe that we are, only 5 days away from the NBA draft, and I cannot wait. I know this draft class is not spectacular, but hey, we're still, fans of the NBA, and we still look forward to the NBA draft each and every year, man. Remember, y'all, laughter's good medicine, so make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm in it, man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.